I would like to start just by welcoming all of you today. I'm Rachel Branson, the Professional Development Manager here at NC Realtors. And I'm excited to have all of you here today. We're going to spend a little bit of time with the incredible Mark Given, learning about productivity best practices and work-life balance, which if you're like me, you probably need a little bit of a reminder after the past year on, how we can keep moving forward and continuing to be productive every day. So a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. We are using Zoom meeting today. So I'm going to be muting everyone here in just a moment. Please do be mute mindful and keep your mic on mute unless you are called on by the speaker. If you have any questions, Mark's going to go into a little more detail here in just a few moments about how you can submit your questions throughout today. But please do know that today is an open conversation, and if you have questions, we definitely want to hear those. And then, like I mentioned, we are recording, so all of you will receive a link to the recording after today's session. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass everything over to Mark. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Now, let me switch over to slide so we get you started. So, hey, I'm just so glad. There we go. I'm just so glad you came. It means more to me than words that you would invest your time and effort into hanging out with me. So my role, what I really want to do over the next, say, 50 to 55 minutes, maybe 50 minutes ish, and give you a few minutes at the end, is to kind of fire hose you with strategies that I know work because I've seen them work for thousands of people. And I can't take credit for the good things they do, but I know that when I see good things, I want to copy it. So I want to talk to you today about wellness and work and life balance and the things that I've discovered that work for, some of the most successful people that I know. Let me give you a little heads up real quick to begin with. So I cannot multitask. I mean, we talk about wellness and work-life balance. You got to know your strengths and your weaknesses. I cannot multitask. I can't. And so what happens is if I try to look in the chat box while we're doing this, I just have to stop talking. My mouth, which my wife would like it from time to time, but I have to stop talking so I can read. It doesn't work that way. So for me, I can't do it. So just know that here's my cell phone number. You see it? It's 252-536-1169. So if you got something to write on, and I hope you do, I hope you got something to write on or write with, just write that number down right now. You may not want it or even think you need it right now, but I promise you this, at some point before I die, you're going to end up having some question about something, and my name might pop into your head, and you might think, I wonder what Mark would think, or what he's experienced, or what he's learned from somebody else. I wonder what he could tell me about this. Call me. It's not just now. Now, during the class today, during our program today, use this number, 252-536-1169. If you put it in the chat, I'm not going to see it. But if you text it to me, my phone will light up and I'll make sure I glance at that. So when you see me glance down to my left, I'm looking to see. So just know this number is good today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. If I knew how to respond to you when I get to the other side, I'd still do that. So that's the number. I've never changed it. I got this number when I had a bag phone. So I've still got that number. Now, one more thing I want you to know. Of all the things we're going to talk about today, this is really important. This is not about me. This is about you. Let me make sure I've got this where you can see it. Because here's what I want you to see. There it is right there. What, why, and how. So everything that I'm doing for the next little bit, I want you to be thinking, what is that? What is it? Why would that be important to you? And how can you apply it? Because everything I say, there'll be some things that will be important to you and not important to somebody else, but there'll be some things that will be important to somebody else and not to you. So what is it? Why is it important to me, right? To you? And how do I apply it? So if you'll do that, I promise you'll have several things, maybe many things that you can do to help you succeed. So let me just start with a simple principle that you already get. Microsoft did a a study just a few years ago because there's just so much noise in the world right now. It's even gotten more so with COVID. I mean, it's just changed everything. Our status quo has changed. And I don't know how you measure the attention span of a goldfish, but they're able to, Microsoft, they can do anything. So anyway, they measured the attention span of a goldfish and they determined that it was 9 seconds. Now, measuring that and comparing it to an active adult with a healthy brain. Okay, so think of yourself for a second. Do you actually have a healthy brain? Of course you do, right? Of course you do. So the question is your attention span more or less than a goldfish? Goldfish is 9 seconds. Now, let me open up the chat where I can see it because I want you to, those of you that will, go to the chat box right now and just put in how long. Do you think you have do we have healthy brain? Longer or shorter than a goldfish? And by the way, how much more or how much less? What do you think? So Kim says shorter. Danica says less. Sue says longer. Anybody else want to jump in? Deborah says longer. Anybody else? Lisa says 10 seconds. We got 3 seconds, shorter, shorter, shorter. Thank you all for jumping in. So Microsoft can measure this. And here's what they determined. A goldfish, right? A goldfish, let me get back so you can see it. A goldfish, 9 seconds. An active adult with a normal brain, that's you, that's me, 8 seconds. That's all we got, kids, 8 seconds. It's no wonder we struggle today with all the many challenges and the noise that is thrust upon us. Now, you don't have to write that down. I just want you to remember it. You don't have an attention span that will help you succeed to the level you really want to succeed, which means it's going to take some extra things to do it. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, said it this way. He said, "We are moving from a world where computing power was scarce to a place where it is now almost limitless." And you know that's true. And he went on to say, "And where the true scarce commodity is increasingly human attention." Now, excuse me, let me mention that human attention is not just about other people. It's also about yourself. It's about your own personal needs. It's about getting well. It's about getting healthy. It's about getting productive. It's about getting successful, however you determine that, right? However you want to define that. So that's what we're going to talk about today is how do we get there? It's about being consciously present. In other words, you know, if you're not living your own dreams, then you're living somebody else's, right? If you don't have your own goals, then you're functioning to, you know, create the goals that somebody else wants for you. And what I want today is to spend a little bit of time helping you decide what really are your goals. What is it you want, right? What is it, right? What is it? And why is it that you want that over something else? And then how the heck do you get there, right? How do you get there? I'm going to give you some strategies to help you know how to get there. Before we're done, fire hosing you. Now, I just want you to know before we finish, the most important thing I'm going to talk about today is this principle. I'm not ready to talk about it yet because you're not ready for it yet. But the 8 dimensions of wellness. But I want to give you an opportunity right now to write these down. So it's your environment, it's your financial circumstances, it's your spiritual life. I didn't say religious, right? I'm not going to preach to you. Well, I am going to preach to you, but it's about your spiritual life. I'm not going to preach the gospel to you, right? I'm going to preach the gospel of success. How's that? It's your vocational life. It's your emotional circumstances. It's your social interaction. It's your physical well-being, and it's your mental health. So those are the 8 things that as we get through the path, I'm going to focus on those specific things. You think, what is it that I really, really want out of my life? How do I get to where I want to be? And so we'll go down a path to help you achieve that because every single one of you want different things. Yogi Berra, the great catcher for the New York Yankees, said it this way. He said, if you don't know where you're going, you might just end up somewhere else. And amen to that. Is that not crazy? But that's so absolutely true. You're going to end up somewhere. It's just a matter, are you going to end up where you want to be, right? No regrets. So let me get on the path real quick of how important this is by getting you to take your pen or your pencil, whatever you got, and your notepad, and I want you to write down a date. I'd like for you to write down March 17th, but not 2021. I want you to write down March 17th, 2022. That's 1 year from today. Now, 1 year from today is going to happen. It's coming. And barring some unusual, unexpected health circumstance or accident or something tragic in your life, you're going to see that day. It's coming. And it's coming almost just like that. So here's the question. On March 22nd and March 17th, 2022, what would have to happen for you between now, this date, and that date? What would have to happen in the next 12 months for you to feel happy with your success or progress? Now, I'm going to come back to that question in a few minutes, but I want you to write that question down right now. Will you please? March 17th, 2022. What would have to happen to you, for you, with you in the next 12 months for you to feel happy with your success or progress? Because if you cannot focus on where you're going to be, and if you can't see it, you need to, if you can't see it, you'll struggle making it happen. You've got to be able to see it, feel it, know that you absolutely deserve it. And you got to think big. You got to think bigger than anybody else thinks maybe you even should be thinking. Don't limit yourself. So that's an important question. I hope you wrote it down. I love what Spock said. He said it this way. He said, we only have now. That's our greatest advantage. What we do now has the power to determine the future. All of history can change with our next move. So let's talk about next moves for a few minutes. Let's talk about next moves. I mean, really, Baby Yoda's right here, right? To help me every day, right, in his little container right here, to help me think about, what's my next move, right? Because he's smarter than I am, so I need help every single day. I need his help. A few years ago, time goes by so fast. Probably been more than just a few years ago. I'm going to recommend a few books to you today while we're talking. The great Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. They sold over 500 million copies of those books. They no longer own that franchise now. But anyway, they wrote, along with Les Hewitt, a book called The Power of Focus. I highly recommend that you get this book. How to hit your business, personal, and financial targets with absolute certainty. Isn't that what we really want? Is some certainty? So here's what they said, because some of you, even though I give you the book, you'll never read it. Here's what they said. They said, and I think you can agree and would agree with this, that the three biggest challenges facing business people, that's you and that's me, right? Facing us today are time pressures, financial pressures, and struggle to maintain a healthy balance between work and home. And I know that you're experiencing that. That's probably what brought you here today, is an understanding we have these challenges. We are just in the middle of it every single day when we wake up, all right? Blessed that we woke up, but we have these problems. They said in this wonderful book that 90% of people that attend short-term programs actually see no improvement in their lives because they don't take time to implement what they've learned. Now, here's the reality, and I mean this with all love and respect. You're going to take some notes today. I hope you will. I hope I'll give you some things that'll be worthy of you writing down. But the reality of it is 9 out of 10 people won't see any change. And the reason that they don't is because immediately after attending and having, 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 great ideas of things they could implement, they get caught right back up in the turmoil and the noise of life. And so they action. In fact, statistically, it's even really less than 10% that do it. But just know that I'm trying to be generous here. Now, let me give you an example so you can pat yourself on the back. We had 90 some people sign up to attend today, and less than half of them showed up. So I just want you to know that doesn't mean that, look, I'm not trying to be unkind. I'm just trying to be truthful. They signed up because they knew they needed to be here, but then they didn't show up. Now, some of them will actually watch this recording. And if you're watching the recording, I applaud you for doing that. But if you don't watch the recording again, if you don't take notes while you're here, you really are not going to see that, you're not going to accomplish the things that you want. And so tough love would say, you know what? You are a freak for being here today. God bless you for being here, because you're not normal, right? I mean, half the people that signed up didn't even show up. So I already applaud you. Here's what they said in the book. They said the main reason that most people struggle professionally and personally is simply a lack of focus. Now, legitimately, we have things that distract us, right? And fires that we have to put out. But I am just grateful that you're here today. I just want you to know this: life never completely closes the door to you and to me. It never does. It never closes the door. Some people may feel like it has, but it hasn't. It just is. It might be a moment in time where it appears that way. Way back in 1974, when I graduated from high school in Little Mount Vernon, Ohio, right? I was much thinner, amazingly younger. Look how curly, what curly hair I had back then. And certainly compared to now. And I grew up right across the street from the high school. This is the Mount Vernon High School. And they actually built a brand new one while I was in high school, so that I didn't graduate from this school. But here's what I knew. In 1974, I knew I had my whole life ahead of me. Well, I just want you to know I'm turning 65 this year. I feel exactly the same way. Even though some wonderful things have happened and some disappointing things have happened over my lifetime, I just know this: I'm not done yet, right? And you're not either. You have your whole life ahead of you to decide the path that you're going to be on. I would say it this way, a little Mark Givenism, that what we need most is almost always right in front of us. It's almost always right there. We just gotta let the noise get out of the way so that we can find it. So let me give you a principle that is critically important, and I hope you'll take a picture of this screen, maybe take a screenshot of it. Just know that when you watch the recording back, it'll still be here. At the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, Dr. Bell teaches the Bell Institute there, and it's mostly about leadership. But he teaches a principle that is so applicable to you today and to me today. And here's what it means for you: that he has a simple graph he calls the mastery achievement ladder. And here's the principle of that. You can look at most anything out there that you'd like to, become a master of, that you'd like to achieve, and you can gain some level of knowledge. Now, you can use this in your skills and your real estate practices, but you can also use it in your life. See, you may know how to get healthier. You may know what it takes to get healthy, right? You may have a deep knowledge of what it takes to be healthy, as an example, mentally or physically. So maybe you would rate yourself as an 8 or 9 on that. Maybe you're not a doctor, but you certainly know that. See, that is the what, right? The what. What is it I need to do to get to where I want to be? But Dr. Bell says that's not what gets it. Knowing it is just part of the battle. What we've got to understand is that it's going to take some skills for us to get there. That's the how. How do we do it? But it's not just that. See, Dr. Bell will also teach you that now that you know what it is, and you want to move up the ladder from 0 or 1 to mastery, and you can figure out how can you get those skills, you've got to actually take some actions. And every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to other things. So the why is critically important. Why would you do this instead of this? When we get to those eight important pieces, when we get to that in a few minutes, I just want you to know that harmony is difficult to create in life, because when we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. So it's the action, it's the why. That's what will create the results that we want. The results are the legacy. It's what we'll think about ourselves. It's what other people will say about us. So I just want you to know there's not a single thing that I believe that you can have in life, that you can do in life, in life that you cannot measure yourself on. Where are you at with your knowledge of it? What's your skill level? How do you improve on it? Why would you want to do that instead of something else? And then, hey, when it's all done and over with, are you going to be grateful, right? Or are people going to applaud you for it? Or are you going to applaud yourself for it? So I love what Peter Senge said. He's the founder of the Society of Organizational Learning for MIT. He said this. He said, personal mastery is the discipline of continually clarifying and deepening our personal vision, of focusing our energies, of developing patience, and seeing reality objectively. See, realistically, no matter what we do to try to grow, to improve ourselves, to improve our mental and physical health, right? To improve our circumstances, to maybe make more money, right? I mean, I got a $1 million bill right here just to remind me that there's not a single one of us that probably already haven't made $1 million or will make $1 million in our lifetime. But you know also that it's not the $1 million that really makes you happy. It'll buy you more stuff, right? But that's like, you can make, lots of wealthy people that are not happy. So it's about vision. It's about energy. It's about patience. Seth Godin would teach you that we're going to always have some growth and success as we choose to do that. But then no matter what, we're going to plateau, right? We're not going to have this just, skyrocketing success. We're going to have a little success, or we're going to plateau. And before we see more growth, we're going to have a dip. Most people give up in the dip. In fact, he wrote a book called The Dip. So I would recommend that book. But I love that principle of the quote that I just shared. See, it's about mastery. It's about understanding the focus and the habits that it's going to take for you to get to where you want to be. Not what somebody else would measure you on, but what you want. It's like this. I absolutely love that because, it's just so easy for people to judge, but they don't get it, right? It's what you see. It's what your vision is. That's what's really important. So how do we create that? Well, we create it with habits. So Charles Duhigg wrote a great book just a few years ago called The Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do in Life and in Business. And I invite you to go out and get the book and read it because it's a powerful book. But let me share with you a couple of principles that are important for you today to help you get to where you want to be well and healthy, both mentally and physically. Here's what he said. He said, most of the choices that we make each day may feel like the products of well-considered decision-making, but they're not, he said. He said that you and I, more than 40% of the actions that you and I, people, right, perform each and every day aren't actual decisions at all. They're habits. So 40% of the stuff that you do all day long are habitual for you. In other words, you just do the same thing over and over and over. Now, that may be good and that may be bad, because here's what he went on to say. He said that the science shows that your brain, my brain, our brains, they can't tell the difference between a good habit, right, or a bad habit. And that's why it's so hard to change. In other words, a habit to our brain is just a habit. It's not emotional to our brain. It's just what we do. It's just the way we do it. So what's important is that we find a simple and obvious cue, going back to the why. Why would that be important? Why would we want to change it? Why do we need to take this particular action? In fact, in my very first book that I wrote with Don Greason, who's also a realtor, by the way, up in Hendersonville, North Carolina, our book ended up becoming an Amazon #1 best-selling book. And it was a book about not leaving this life with regrets. It's a parable book. He's a wonderful storyteller. So I had the strategies and the ideas. He just knows how to tell the story. Anyway, here's what the book said. Here's one of the things we taught, that when your brain and your heart connect on the why, when the what and the how will appear. So often we reverse it. We get to work focused on the what we need to do and how we need to do it, and we forget why is the most critical part. Because every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. So our brain, our intellect, and our heart need to connect on why we choose that instead of something else. That's how we adjust our habits. So Tony Dungy said it this way. He said, champions don't do extraordinary things. They just do ordinary things, but they do them without thinking, too fast for the competition to react. They follow the habits that they've learned. Now, I think over the last maybe 25 minutes, you can see that I'm trying to get you down a path to what it really takes to create the life that you want, to have the wellness and the health and the strength, right? To have the work-life balance that you're seeking. Because reality is, it's nothing more than creating positive habits and understanding that, you know, some of the 40% that we do is not the best things we could do. You've heard of a guy named Vilfredo Pareto, born in 1848, died in 1923, long before any of us. And he taught the principle, the 80-20 rule. And it so applies to what we're talking about today. And here's what he said. Even though Vilfredo was studying first pea pods and farming and then financial, wealth in Europe, it applies every bit to what we're talking about today. The principle is just this: 20% of the things that you actually do, right, will create 80% of the positive results that you're seeking. And about 80% of the things that you choose to do only create about 20% of the positive results that you're seeking. So the key then is to really focus on, both in business and in life, just the small amount of activities that create, oops, sorry about that. Well, Kim, thank you. You sent me a message. Thank you. I'll read that in just a second. That will create 20% will create 80%. And so critically important that we take some time today, tonight, tomorrow morning, and we focus on the things. After you decide, when we get to that point, we decide what is it we need to focus on the most, then what are the activities that we need to be doing, which will really create that for us. Now, let me look at that message real quick, Kim. Education not implemented is purely entertainment. I love that. That's absolutely true. Thank you, Kim. Here's what Audrey Hepburn said, right? Probably not as smart as Kim, but anyway, Audrey was probably more well-known. No disrespect, Kim, but she said this: nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. So as we jump into the real 8 principles, I just want you to know that don't limit yourself by possibilities. Don't limit yourself, because miracles can happen, and they will happen. They're waiting to happen, but you've got to do what's necessary. I love the book The Secret. Jack Canfield was actually in that movie, but the missing piece from The Secret was the action point, right? You actually have to do something. You can't just hope is not a great strategy. You gotta, and prayer is a wonderful tool, but you gotta actually do something. So we're now down to the 8 dimensions of wellness: environmental, financial, spiritual, vocational, emotional, social, physical, and mental. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something right now that is going to be homework for you, because in a short session like this, we can't really do it. But I'm going to ask you to draw out on a piece of paper right now what I call the wellness wheel. Now, I just want you to know that when I teach the GRI business planning class, I use this wheel, but I change some of the words to make it more business-like, so it'll apply in a GRI class. But here's the reality of this. I'm asking you to get a piece of paper and a pencil right now, do a screenshot, right? Do a screenshot, or take a picture with your camera. because I need you to start working on this immediately. And here's the principle. These 8 areas are critically important to creating the wellness, the work-life balance that you're seeking. And instead of using the word balance, I really would prefer you use the word harmony and write that beside it. Your environment is all of the things that you're surrounded by and you allow yourself to be surrounded by. When you're surrounded by negative people, negative circumstances, it and I mean that, right, to many different degrees. So I'm not suggesting that I don't want to be responsible for any of you going out and getting a divorce, but I do want to, impress upon you the fact that when we speak negatively, when we're surrounded by negative thoughts or negative comments or negative people, we get negative results. I mean, I know that people, or at least a person, that seems like they live with a cloud over them, right? They just do. They're the kind of person that you're almost afraid to even ask, how you feeling, because you're afraid of the bile they might spew at you, and you lovingly want to ask, but you know that you can't, because realistically, unfortunately, they live under that cloud and they're going to stay under that cloud. And that's true because you've seen it happen. Socially is not the same as an environment. Socially is how you give to the world and how you participate in the world. In other words, the world loves givers. If you've ever read a book by my friend John David Mann and Bob Berg, a wonderful series of books called The Go Giver, or Go Giver series of books. I mean, what they're really talking about is giving. The whole principle of those books, The Go Giver, is to be generous. In other words, the way I would say it is, you don't give until it hurts, but you give because it works. Something as simple. Well, let me give you an example, not to pat myself on the back, but just as an example. Rachel Branson is the one that set me up and invited me to come and be with. I've already got the envelope filled out, right, for Rachel. Now, I hope it'll make Rachel feel good when I send her a handwritten note, right? How long will it take me to do that? 3 or 4 minutes. But I just want you to know, it makes me feel good to send that to her because I'll know it's from the heart. So I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just trying to make a point here. Social is how you interact with the world. My mom taught me when I was a young kid that success and business in life is all based on how you make people feel. In other words, by making people feel good, by serving them, it helps make you feel good. And, when you're having a bad day, go out and help somebody, right? Help them with their problem and you'll forget your problem. So environment is how you're surrounded. Social is how you give. It's what you do out in the world. Give, right? Why? Because it works. Emotional, have we not gone through emotional turmoil over the past year with COVID? And we need to have, healthy thoughts, fill our minds with healthy thoughts, affirmations. I carry around, I'll show it to you in a minute. I carry around affirmations. They're with me all the time. I don't read them every single day, but when I'm feeling bad, I need to do it. I remember reading in a book that John David Mann wrote, a separate book, not the Go Givers book, that he suggested that you sit down. If you're having some rough times, you sit down and every day, every morning, and then every night, you write down one thing that is a blessing in your life, a positive thing. And then you keep a list. I have a little pad that I wanted to write one single thing every single day, is something I was blessed for. I ran out of space before I ran out of 365 days. But I've been carrying that around with me for a decade now, because you know what? My emotional state of mind, your emotional state of mind, is what will draw you towards success or keep you from it. Now, as you get older, and I'm older, I just want you, I'm a religious person and you may not be. So I'm not going to, I'm not going to hold it against you if you're not, you don't hold it against me because I am. But just know, as we get older, there's one thing that we can all agree on, all 7 billion people. There are some things in this universe that we cannot answer. We do not have answers for. And so as we get older, we find that we become closer, right, to wanting to be satisfied that there is something else. And, it doesn't have to be about religion. It can be just about spirituality. And just know that our spirituality is critically important to our mental health and well-being too. When we are grounded, right, and in some form of spirituality, it is a blessing and a bonus in our lives. Vocational is all about success, right? Where do we want to be? Where do we want to be, right? What is it going to take for us to get there? Where do we want to be next week, next month, next year? There are some things you cannot control, but there are many things that you can. Finances, right? I already showed you $1 million bill. I just want you to know, if this is really, really important to you, there's one thing we can all agree on. It's better to have it than not have it. It's a lot more enjoyable in life to wake up in the morning and know you can make your house payment, your car payment, pay your insurance and your taxes, than to not have it and wonder, right? And look at all the blessings that you can be for somebody else because you can give and help and bless their lives. So finances, there is a point where we have sufficient for our needs. I mean, in the United States, there was a report some few years ago that said that in the normal, right, not San Francisco, New York, or Miami, right, but in the normal, communities, once you make $75,000, you'll never be any happier. You can't buy happiness once you get beyond 75,000 because you just buy more stuff. It doesn't make you happier. So, that's all relative, of course, based on where you live. San Francisco would probably be 3 times that, right? And New York and Miami and so on and so forth. Physical, there's one thing we can totally agree on. If you're not physically able to function in the world, then, if you fall down and you mess up your wrist, everything else is going to come to a halt until you get your wrist straightened out. My brother's wife, my sister-in-law, Debbie, passed away over the weekend, and it's still a little tender, so I apologize. But for Mike, he's my older brother, and just know that it's physically and mentally debilitating for him right now. And those are the next 2 points: physically and mentally. Everything else comes to a halt when we're not physically or mentally in our best state of mind. And so, there are some things that happen that we cannot control, but we have to understand that we can move on, we can move forward, and we can find happiness, and we can find health, and we can find success. Now, why have I spent 10 minutes on that? The most important thing I could do today. See, I can't tell you exactly where you are on this wellness wheel, but here's your homework. I want you to draw out the wheel. In the middle, you would have just a dot, the bullseye, and then going from the middle out from 1 to 10. I'd like for you to actually graph this out for yourself. You can even go online and find one of these wheels. You don't have to do it. If you're artistic, great. If you're not. And here's what I want you to do. I really legitimately, with all my love and interest in you, want you to measure yourself on each of these categories: your environment, your social circumstances, your emotional state, your spiritual, state, your vocational. Are you where you want to be professionally? Your financial situation. Are you where you want to be financially? Your physical state. It's not about losing weight, but it could be about losing weight. And your mental state. I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And then I'm asking you to look at it again a month from now. See, if you'll measure yourself right now, today, tomorrow, right, get it done. Make it a priority. And then you'll decide what's it going to take for you to improve, right, to get to where you want to be. And why would you want to do that? Then measure it again a month from now, and then another month after that. And if you would do this on a regular basis, here's what I promise you. It may be slow change, but it will happen. Now, I can't make you do this. I can only invite you. But every year I have a little book that I create between between Christmas and New Year's, because I celebrate Christmas. And so between Christmas and New Year's, I have a book. So I create this book. This is this year's book. I have a 1-year goal, right? A 1-year focus. a one word focus. I'm sorry. This year, the book is resilience. Why? Because we all need to bounce back from this COVID mess. Within it, I have my financial goals. I have my daily affirmations. I have my environmental goals, my educational goals, my professional goals, my family and fun goals, my social goals, my faith goals, my physical goals, my community goals, right? I have all of those, and I have a little tab for each of these. And so what I do, I write in this, right? I write in this at the beginning of the year. So at the end of the year for the next year, and I write the focus of what I want. Now I know this is probably a little bizarre, right? And I'm not telling you got to do it. I'm just telling you that this is what I've got to do. I have to do this. Within the book, I don't have it. It must have fallen out. I must have dropped it. But I actually have my daily affirmations. And even in my daily affirmations, right, for 2021, I reduced those down and put them in a little laminated thing. I must have dropped it. But anyway, it's right here someplace. And so that I can keep it with me all the time. I have one in my car. And I just want you to know that, there's a whole list of daily things I need to remind that fit in all these categories. And I don't mind, I'm not going to read all these to you because that would be boring. They're not about you. But I will tell you there's some that are important to me, right? So I have here one, I'm right towards the top. Every day, I'm a loving, patient, fun, and encouraging father and grandfather, and communicate well with each of my children and grandchildren. Every day, right? Every day I need to do that. Because if they don't know I love them, I've got to make sure, I can't just assume that they know I love them. I got to make sure they know it. The very top one, I'm not embarrassed to tell you this one. It says, I enjoyed treating Gigi. Gigi is my wife, Janice. Our grandkids call her Gigi. I enjoy treating Gigi like a queen every day, right? Because she deserves that. And by the way, you're on here too. You're down, on the list. I enjoy speaking to some of the kindest and most generous people on the earth, right? And that's you. I just want you, I expect that every single day. And that's what happens. I just want you, I can't impress upon you enough that find the system to use the wellness wheel. And for me, this goes in my backpack. I carry it with me everywhere. It's always within my grasp so that I can add to it or take away. I mean, because things change, right? And so the wellness wheel works, and you don't have to do it as extreme as I do it, right? I'm probably a multi freak, but for me, that's what it takes for me to get to where I want to be. I love what Amy Cootie said. She said, don't fake it till you make it. You fake it till you become it. Is that not just absolutely the best? I mean, she said that in a TED talk. I heard her say that. And then she wrote a great book. I got the book out. I'm rereading it, called Presence, right? Bringing your boldest self to your biggest challenges, right? That's exactly what you and I are talking about today. So don't fake it till you make it. You fake it till you become it. I love it. She's brilliant. So William James said it this way. He said, project where you will be in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. And if you don't like everything you see, what would you prefer, right? What's your ideal? Because here's the principle. By changing our thoughts, we change our lives. See, the actions don't happen until we change our thoughts. We can't even have our thoughts unless we know what our thoughts are, right? So why would I do this? Well, because it's just so critically important to me. I just want you to, this is just a side note. Up on my, there's a cabinet right beside me, a bookshelf. There's 3 bookshelves in a cabinet. I have these are all lined up, years of them, because I've been doing this for a long time. And I can tell you every year, everything I put in the book doesn't happen, right? But that's not the point. At the end of the year, I feel so blessed and grateful for the things that have happened. And I recognize some of the things that didn't happen. I don't know, probably good it didn't happen. I didn't need it. I'm not ready for it. Maybe I need to put it in next year's book and keep working on it, keep working a little bit harder. See, Covey would teach you, and of course he's passed away now, what he would call, from his 7 habits of highly effective people, he would teach you the 4 quadrants, right? That we need to focus on the 4 quadrants, what's urgent and important that we do, and not urgent, but important, right? Urgent, but not important. Then some things we just need to delegate, and not urgent and not important. Now, I don't need to take you through this whole book. Some of you have read it. If you've never read the book, I would recommend you read this book because it will help you get down the path that you need to be on to accomplish what you want. Covey said it this way. He said, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. And see, that's not what you want, right? I mean, why would you be here if you're totally satisfied with where you are? A Mark Givenism would just be this, right? People who say it can't be done should stop interrupting those who are already doing it. And I applaud you for all the wonderful, great, awesome things that you're doing. But I know that there's probably more. Nah, let me take it back. I know there's more that you're capable of doing, right? Don't stop now. And if people say you can't do it, that's even more reason why you should do it. Let me kind of close it out with a book and a principle by Brian Tracy. I would recommend you read this book called No Excuses, right? And the Power of Self-Discipline. And he just has a simple ABCDE system. I'd invite you to write this down. Here's what Brian Tracy said. He said, when you're going to decide what you really want, right? And you can actually do this every single day too. He said, you never work on a lesser task until you completed a higher task, but you got to decide what those higher tasks are. So if you're going to get to where you want to be, what is it you got to do to get there, right? What are the must-do tasks? Those are the A's. B's are the should-do tasks, and those are important for me to do, and I need to get to those, but those are not as important as the A's, the must-dos. The C to him is nice to do. There'd be no negative consequences, but doing those will prevent you from getting to where you want to be. Now, I just want you to know, I think what Brian's trying to teach us is we do too many C's, probably more B's than we should be doing, and not enough A's. See, there's good, there's better, and there's best. And we get so caught up in doing the good that we're not doing the best. So D would be the things that we just shouldn't be doing at all. We need to delegate that. And the E would be the non-essential should be eliminated. We just need to get rid. We don't even need to delegate those. We need to just put those right out of our life. Just not even, let somebody else deal with that. Just let somebody else deal with that. So I just want you to know, I think Brian's No Excuses book is a wonderful example of what it's going to take for you to get to where you want to be. The 8 principles in the wheel. Now, how do you get there? Well, use a principle like this. Brian said it this way. He said, obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off your goals. And I totally believe that's true. So here's the very last point. And I can't, I've written 10 books now. So I have to at least share with you something from one of my books. So in my Trust-Based Success book, Proven Ways to Stop Stressing and Start Living, I taught the 4-step process to success. Many people can't achieve the level of success that they want because they make it too complicated. So let me give you the 4 steps, and you can accomplish pretty much anything you deserve in life. Here's step number 1. Decide what you want. And then it's critically important because science still shows that you should write it down. Now, I know you can type it in your computer, you can put it in your phone, you can put it on your iPad, but the science still says the power of writing it down is way more powerful than typing it or putting it in some other device. So the 4-step process, 1 is decide what you want and then write it down. Clearly, that's what I have done with my book here. Number 2 then is determine your plan. So you don't have to know everything. You just need to know the first step, or who could I go to help me with that first step. Determine some plan, some strategy to begin, your best next step. And all you have to do that is over and over and over. So determine your plan. Number 3 then is estimate the cost. See, there's always going to be a cost. Sometimes the cost is going to be in money. Sometimes it's going to be in time. Sometimes it's going to be in both. So don't start working on what it's going to cost you until you decide, is it something you really want? right? You write it down, right? Create some strategy as to what it's going to look like when you get there. Even if you don't know all the steps, at least you got some strategy of how I can begin, what it's going to feel like when you're standing on the podium, and then estimate the cost. Are you really willing to pay that price, right? Because if you're willing to pay the price in time or money or both, then the fourth step is you commit. I mean, really commit to pay the price. See, so often, like Seth Godin said, we get some success, we plateau, we get in the dip. It's in the dip when the people that love us start trying to help us by saying, it's okay if you quit now. You don't need to move forward. I don't want you to experience any pain. You've put in enough effort. Well, I just want you to know that's a bunch of baloney. And I mean that with love and care. If you're doing that to other people, you need to stop doing it. Because the truth is, if they sincerely want something, they've decided, they've written it down, they've determined the plan, and they're willing to pay the price, then help them figure out how to make it happen. Don't invite them to quit, because commit to pay the price, and then miracles will happen. They will happen, but you just can't, right? You just can't. And I know some people say, well, Mark, but in some cases there is a time to quit. Well, I don't know, right? I don't know that that's necessarily true, because it depends on what it is you really are seeking. So I know this. I had somebody say to me years ago, Mark, if your dreams aren't big enough to make some people laugh out loud, they're just not big enough. I know that's true, right? That scared me a little bit when my friend said it. But if they're not going to point at me and laugh, I probably don't have big enough dreams. You don't even have to take my word for it. Many years ago, J.P. Morgan, at the time, one of the wealthiest men in America, not the most wealthy in the world, but he of him. Bank. I mean, he's still Chase Morgan. Anyway, you know who he is. JP Morgan is walking down the street of New York City, the way the story goes. And a young man walks up to him and says, just a simple thing, walks right up to him and says, sir, in my hand, I hold a guaranteed formula for success, which I will gladly sell to you for $2,000. Now, I just want you to know this was a long time ago. And if you looked in the difference of when the story was supposed to have happened and today, that $2,000 today would be worth about $54,000. So anyway, young man boldly just says, hey, I've got, sir, in my hand, I hold a guaranteed formula for success, which I will gladly sell to you for $2,000. The way the story goes is that JP, instead of brushing the young man off, telling him to get out of my face or get out of the way, he looked at the young man and he said, young man, let me see what's in that envelope, right? Let me see that formula. And if it is what you say it is, I will write you a check. He had a checkbook in his pocket. I will write you a check right now for $2,000. So JP, the way the story goes, took the envelope, opened it up, read what was on the piece of paper, reached in his pocket, wrote the man a check for $2,000. In today's money, $54,000. And boy, when I heard that story, I wanted to know what was on the paper. Don't you want to know? Well, here's what it said. First, it said, every morning, write a list of the things that need to be done that day. And then what caused JP then to write the check was just the second simple principle. It just simply said, do them. I just want you to know, you want to find the life that you're seeking, decide what you want, write it down, create a plan, determine whether you're willing to pay the price or not. And then if you are, it's worth way more than $54,000. Just get to it and do it. So look, a no strings attached thank you very quickly as I wrap this up for you today. My newest book is Trust-Based Time Management and Productivity, Proven Ways to Stop Dawdling and Start Achieving. If you send me an email just to mark@markgiven.com, just for attending today with no strings attached, I'm going to send you some bonus material for attending. I'm going to add you to my weekly 1-minute message. I'm going to send you a free chapter of my book from the time management book. And I'm going to send you something called the free trust test. You want to see how you measure up in the world, how trustworthy you are. What do people really think about you? Take the 38-question trust test that we've been designing now for decades and see if it doesn't help you. So with all that in mind, hey, we got about 3 or 4 minutes. I'm just so glad you're here. God bless you. We got 3 or 4 minutes. If a couple people or anybody has a question, I'd be glad to entertain the question. And other than that, if you don't have questions, I'm going to turn it back over to Rachel. But anyway, unmute yourself if you got questions. Let's talk for a minute.
Sorry, I missed your email address. Can you give that one more time?
You absolutely can. Let me just go back and show it to you. There it is right there. Mark, M-A-R-K, at markgiven.com. I'll tell you a quick funny story about that. So every once in a while, somebody will write an email to mark at markgivens.com. And that goes to a guy that lives in Tennessee. And so about every week, he emails me with all of the emails that people have sent intended for me. It's such a kind thing for him to do. Talk about being a giver. And every time I come out with a new book, I just send him a book. I send him a new gift a couple times a year just to say thanks. So it's Mark at Mark Given, no S, but just know, even if you put an S on it, my buddy down in Tennessee is going to send me your email. So any other thoughts?
Hey, Mark, this is Bobby Jean Harvey from Wilmington.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, I was just sitting here thinking while you were talking about this, and Michael Jordan came from Wilmington.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how, he's the best basketball player and all this, but, he used to practice hours and hours and hours just shooting like a free throw.
Yeah.
And, that's why now, like, it just made me think, everybody thinks it's a natural thing for him, but he really, really put a lot of habit and practice into it. And we just think things are supposed to come naturally when we have to take that extra effort.
You're absolutely right. So Bobby and anybody else that's still listening, read a book called The Slight Edge. Read a book called The Slight Edge. It doesn't talk about Michael Jordan in the book, but the principle is exactly the same. Michael was willing to do things that are easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. And although every NBA player was capable of doing the same thing Michael was doing, now maybe he had some natural talent they didn't have, but they could practice just like he did. But most will not do it. In fact, read a book called The Slight Edge. It's a great, look it up. You can buy it probably on eBay for, $3 or something like that. It might even come shipping free. So The Slight Edge, it's a great book. I would read that, right? So it will tell you exactly that same principle. Be willing to do things other people aren't doing. It's about habits. Willingness. Great point. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I'm just so glad you came. Thanks for coming. Rachel, are you there?
I am, yes. I guess if no one else has any questions or comments, I just want to say thank you. I think one of my most favorite reminders that you gave us today is, by making others feel good, you truly make yourself feel good too. And, we all get stuck in these slumps, and a lot of us, we're not seeing as many people as we used to. And I think that just really finding ways to reconnect with people, I think that just is going to make a world of a difference. And I know I needed that reminder today. So thank you for that, Mark.
You're very welcome. That card is going in the mail to you this afternoon, Rachel. So just know you'll get that.
Thank you. And you are 100% right. Every single time I get one, it really makes my day. So thank you truly for those, Mark.
Hey, I'm just so glad. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for investing in yourself. And just know I'm rooting for you. Health, happiness, and success. And you can always reach out to me. You've got my number, right? You got my number. What'd I do with it? Here it is. You got my number. Just send me a text, give me a call, right? If I can help you, just know I want to. Rachel,
Perfect.
you're the host, so I'm gonna take off here. And
Sure. Well, thank you again, Mark, and thank you everyone for coming today. I've taken a lot of notes, and in our follow-up email that we will send out to all of you that has the link to the recording, I'll also include a list of all of the books that Mark recommended today for your reading list, just to help everyone not lose sight of all of these productivity tips, these wellness tips, and I know that I needed all of these reminders today. So Mark, thank you so much. And we truly look forward to seeing all of you on the next webinar.
thank you. God bless y'all. Bobby, thanks for your kind note there. Y'all be good. I'll see you. I look forward to seeing you live and in person. I'll probably bring Yoda, and I'll probably bring some chocolate. Okay.
Yes.
So y'all be good. See you now.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Mark, thank you so much. You're awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks,
See y'all. Bye-bye.